Blood Bowl is one of those great concepts that immediately intrigue and excite. It's fantasy American football, with all the wonder and imagination of the former and the strategy and tactics of the latter. Fittingly enough, given sport's roots in war, Blood Bowl was a spin-off of Games Workshop's miniatures war game, Warhammer. As a result, Blood Bowl plays like a turn-based tactical war game, with an outstanding strategy campaign wrapped around it. Matches tend to be very cerebral and tense affairs, with coaches having to think several moves ahead while under time pressure and subject to the vagaries of fate. Team development in league competitions is equally engaging, and coaches will be thinking about their teams even when they are away from the game. The board game has been around for over a quarter of a century now, and has undergone multiple revisions over the years. Cyanide Studios' PC conversion has gone through several iterations as well, but the French developer's implementation still falls short in some areas. One thing is true of both the board game and the digital version. Learning Blood Bowl can be a frustrating experience. New coaches will go through 4 stages when learning to play this game: befuddlement, outrage, sheepishness, joy. The digital version's greatest strength also makes it harder to learn the game. There's no need to worry about tedious bookkeeping and administrative tasks, since that's all sensibly offloaded to the computer. On the downside, that means new coaches are less exposed to the rule set and are thus unlikely to understand why things happen the way they do. There are rules and exceptions galore in Blood Bowl. Take blocking for example. The both down result for a block attempt causes both the attacker and defender to be knocked down, unless one of them has the block skill, in which case only the player without block is knocked down. If both players have block on the other hand, a peculiar sound effect plays, and both players remain standing. But wait, if one player has block and the other has wrestle, both players are knocked down. Oh, the attacking player blitzed and has juggernaut, then both down means pushed. As ridiculous as it may sound, there's actually a lot more to this, which only serves to illustrate just why learning the ins and outs of Blood Bowl's arcane rule set takes a long time and a lot of diligence. Matters aren't helped by the PC conversion's poor documentation. The block dice has 6 sides and 5 outcomes, so which outcome is repeated? That's not listed anywhere. If omitting information wasn't bad enough, the documentation is also guilty of misinformation. The last page of the PDF manual states the Alt-W hotkey is used to hide the UI. It's actually Alt-Z. If merely learning to play Blood Bowl is a complicated process, mastering its strategy is a real challenge. New coaches must quickly wrap their heads around the game's key mechanic, turnovers, as the strategy revolves around it. Each team can field a maximum of 11 players, and each player may be moved once per turn. But aside from the first few turns, there rarely is an opportunity to make 11 moves a turn, because the turn ends the moment a move fails. The turnover mechanic forces coaches to plan in advance and analyze the risks of every possible move. Risk is inherent in Blood Bowl because dice rolls determine everything from kickoff events, which can dramatically affect the match, to post-match earnings. The dice rolls are not only a source of tension and unpredictability, but considerable frustration as well. Cognitive bias being what it is, new coaches will understandably throw fits whenever the dice rolls don't go their way and dismiss the game as being completely random. For all the randomness of the dice rolls, however, Blood Bowl remains a strategic game that rewards thoughtful play. The game's strategy can be distilled thusly: make low-risk moves first, limit high-risk moves to pivotal moments, force your opponents into taking risks, always have a backup plan. The most common mistake made by new coaches is anticipating the successful outcomes of a risky move without taking into account what happens if they fail that dice roll. The other thing that's worth remembering is that sometimes the best move is not moving at all. Blood Bowl matches are certainly engrossing tactical experiences. But what elevates Blood Bowl from a good strategy game to a great one is the long-term hook of team development in league competitions. There are 23 teams available in the Chaos edition of Blood Bowl, and each has its own distinct flavor when starting out. The High Elves are well suited to a lightning-quick passing game, whereas the slow but sturdy Dwarves are usually content to wear their opponents down. It must be pointed out that not all teams are created equal. The Goblins, for example, have been included mainly for tactical comedy purposes. As players gain experience and level up, they can be customized with additional skills, and this allows coaches to adapt their team. With time and a little bit of luck, even a brutish orc can be developed into a player capable of feats of elven agility. It's deeply satisfying to turn a team of incompetent journeymen into a championship-winning squad. Coaches will take immense pride in the rise of a carefully nurtured legend, as well as agonize over the loss of a cherished player. This is one of strategy gaming's great campaigns, fully deserving of a place alongside such classics like UFO Enemy Unknown, Panzer General, and Steel Panthers. If Blood Bowl the board game is an exciting and engrossing design, Blood Bowl the PC conversion is a little frustrating. For one thing, Cyanite's latest version still has a long list of bugs, which is inexcusable since the developer has had several attempts to get it right. It's all the more exasperating considering the time and resources squandered on a pointless feature. Blood Bowl's real-time mode is clearly an attempt to widen the appeal of the game, but is wholly unnecessary given that turn-based strategy games have been popular for centuries, and moreover, a turn-based strategy franchise has featured strongly on Steam's list of most played games for years. However, this is not the first time a Games Workshop board game has been bastardized in this way. The EA Space Hulk games from the 90s and Relic Entertainment's more recent Warhammer 40k RTS games took similar liberties with their source material, but in those cases, the resultant games were actually good. Cyanite's real-time Blood Bowl, on the other hand, is a travesty. It reduces a thoughtful chess-like experience into an unruly real-time melee. The only reason to be thankful for the real-time mode is that its superbly detailed and well-animated character models are reused for the turn-based classic mode. The interface is one area that could have benefited from more attention from the developer. Take the level up screen. Notice how the player's details are dimmed just when a coach might want to refer to them. The menu can be cancelled to return focus to the player details screen, but that really shouldn't be necessary. When it comes to match day, coaches will find Blood Bowl's AI in the single-player game is decent for training purposes and no more. To be fair, however, there are few turn-based strategy games with AI capable of holding its own against an experienced gamer. The AI's biggest failing is its apparent inability to factor in time. It will play very conservatively, even when it's losing and the match is about to end. In addition to that, the AI seems wholly incapable of using player skills like hypnotism. At best, the AI is a pre-season opponent, useful primarily for learning each team's capabilities and trying out tactics. For a true test, it's best to head online. Here too, Cyanite stumbles. New coaches might be horrified to discover their first online match has 40-second turns, since that has been stupidly set as the minimum setting by default. Changing that is not easy either, because the setting is not immediately obvious. The biggest problem with online play is that matchmaking is not entirely fair. It's possible for a new coach with a brand new team to be pitted against a veteran team coached by someone with over 2 decades of experience playing the board game. The inducements mechanic was designed specifically to even the odds by compensating lesser teams with useful bonuses, like outstanding star players. Unfortunately, it falls short of its goals in the digital version because coaches play the PC game with far greater frequency, and all else being equal, the team with more experienced players is always going to have a major advantage. The inducement system and the associated spiraling expenses mechanic work best when all teams have played an equal number of matches. So the best way to experience Blood Bowl online would be to eschew random matchmaking and opt instead for private leagues, where everyone starts off on an equal footing. Well, except for the goblins. What it all comes down to is this: Cyanide's PC version just lacks polish. The French developer has suffered mighty blows aplenty as disgruntled fans have been piling on in forums since 2009. But Cyanide also deserves plenty of credit. And here's why. Blood Bowl fans, whether they are new ones who have been introduced to the game through the PC version, or old school fans of the 26-year-old board game, can now play Blood Bowl online at any time. A quick match before bed? Sure. Play against someone on the other side of the planet? Go for it. This alone is reason enough to celebrate this flawed conversion of a fantastic board game.